Good morning, everyone. I just had to say to Pastor Gary, is that me? Do I get up now? It's great to be here this morning. I'm Dan. I am the Field Development Manager for Scripture Union here in North Queensland. That's not why I'm here, I don't think. I'm here just to share with you some stories about mission and ministry and following Jesus, and that's just the pathway I've ended up on. My encouragement this morning for you is that I'm not trying to share with you my story for any other reason than for you to think about yours. Is that okay? So some of the challenges and some of the things that I've learnt this morning, my heart is that they will be a catalyst of you investigating in your own heart what the adventure of following Jesus has been for you, or whether you're ready to start on a journey and an adventure of following Jesus. Is that cool? Because I know we're all different. We've all got different journeys, and we're all here for a different reason today. So, let me show you. I think I pressed play, don't I? Is that just forward? Everything's forward. Nice. There's a screen there. I'm going to give you some perspectives today around what that's like. I've been in Townsville for a long time. I moved here in 1993 to study engineering at James Cook University. I did 4 years of consulting engineering, in which time it became obvious that God had called me to full-time ministry. That's the calling on my life. How that tracks out I'll share with you some of my stories, what it looks like now, but I have a great understanding that everything goes through that lens, and that certainly that song that we just sang had the ability to move me to tears and throw me over the edge, because Jesus is the center of it all. So I'm going to give you some perspectives, and I'm hoping that they will challenge and inspire you today. Last week, I was on a journey towards Cardwell to hang out with some people in Ingham, because Ingham's part of my patch. Ingham, in fact, the Hinchinbrook is the northernmost part of the area that I serve. And if this looks familiar to you, this is heading off Riverway Drive, heading up onto the Ring Road. And I thought I want to capture some things with my GoPro on this journey so I can start sort of sharing stories with people in the region around the things that we're doing and where we go. What captured my attention, so what started as a journey, and this is where we get over Beck Drive there and the overpass, and man, I'm looking forward to that opening up. Does anybody get stuck in the bottleneck of traffic? Yes, I've got some hands. And then you come along, so what I'm sharing with you is what I saw, and why I wanted to share with you is that I got excited by the biggest story of the construction work that's going on and the diversity of the skills involved. Even this part going over the Bowley there is so much bridge work going on. There are so many workers in that space, from concreters to formwork people to traffic controllers to the engineers behind the scenes that got all that stuff happening. Then we get up to the end of some beautiful highway that's unconstructed, which means we get to go full speed limit, and then we slow down again. For the north side of Townsville, sounds like a perpetual story in Queensland, doesn't it? And then you get to the north of Townsville, heading towards the Black River, and there's a whole lot of work that's been going on for a very long time here in the northern suburbs, and it's looking like it's getting close to completion. But here was the kicker for me. As you get close to Black River, and you'll see the new bridge in a moment, look on the right, I believe, for you, at all of the trucks and all of the services. And as you go over the bridge in a moment, the number of people, and think about the number of diverse skills that are involved in putting a project like that together. Sometimes there's an inconvenience because of a change of a speed limit for us as people who are going on a journey. But the reality is sometimes there's a call to service and a call to get everybody together for part of that job. So coming into the river, I had to look at this footage multiple times to realise that actually was the bridge that I went over, because it looks so old compared with that beautiful new bridge that's being built on the side there. A beautiful new bridge which is built higher because the standards have changed, and part of a corridor in the north of Townsville that's certainly changing. Why do I share with you this story? Because we are a part of something that God is doing. We are unique in so many different ways. And God is doing a work of building his church, not just here in the city, but globally. And we have a unique perspective on that because we have unique gifts and abilities that God has given to us. Northreach has a unique calling that God has called this church family to that can be completely different to a church down the road or even to sending organisations like the beautiful message this morning as the church and as we the church, not just Northreach, as we the church see the sending of Suzanne and others into unique works of ministry and mission, correct? So as I look at that big picture, I was encouraged because I thought, number one, the thing that stuck out for me is this. If you're stuck working on Black River Bridge, you could be working on that job as a reinforcement tyre for 2 years and not see the bigger picture of the rest of the job that you're a part of. Am I right? And you can get so fixed by seeing steel and dealing with the heat and doing all that sort of stuff, and you don't see the big picture until you step away from that. Your job doesn't actually allow you to do that because your job is to be on the deck, tying the bars. Frustrated that the engineer made them 24 mil in diameter and not 16 mil in diameter because that's so much heavier. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? And so you're whinging and you're complaining about the people that designed it, but you're just there to do a job. And you're doing a job that makes life better for people. The problem is that people like me, not like me, hopefully, more often than not, I hope that I'm gracious, is that I drive past projects like this frustrated that I had to slow down. When there's a bigger picture at work and the inconvenience of now leads to something a bit bigger down the track. Are you with me? We are unique, we are different. God is doing something special and we don't need to do the same thing someone else is doing. We're all a part of the same project. And maybe we're in Yeppoon where the government's building the Bruce Highway down there and rebuilding it, just like the government is doing the same here in the north or south of Townsville. But we're a part of a bigger picture. The world says, work hard to get ahead. Jesus says, work hard to show the world who you are really working for. There is so much to the attitude that we carry in the work that we're doing that has got more to do with what Jesus is teaching us and inspiring the world with than the actual work that we are doing. We can get so trapped by what's going on. And today I want to share with you that challenge of that perspective. In fact, today I'm going to spend more time talking in and around Colossians chapter 3, particularly around this verse 23, which says, work as if you were doing it for the Lord, not for people. The challenge in this particular passage is the context, and I will get to that, because it's about slaves submitting to their masters as a part of everything else. And my encouragement to you right now, if you're thinking about where this might go, is that I wonder if, like me, you've ever felt enslaved by even the good deeds you once did because they became something that trapped you from what was coming up. Does that make sense? So sometimes we start something and we start on a journey and it's all working until it's not working anymore, but I've still got to keep doing this thing that I'm doing because it worked well yesterday and because we were getting fruit and it was happening in ministry and mission and family and relationships, but it's not working anymore. And I feel trapped because everyone says that this is the way to do it. But maybe the challenge to you today is that God is calling you to change your perspective and to change your eyes off the work that you're doing to the one who sent you into the work. Is that cool? To take your eyes off what you're doing and to consider who you're doing it with and who you're doing it for. With that in mind, I have this great reputation, so I have no intention of offending anybody here today, but I have this great reputation within our organisation now. And one of the things that, to take a back step, so I'm working with Scripture Union. I was a chaplain for over 20 years, still Chappy Dan to many of you, so still a chaplain at heart. One of the reasons for the last 15 years that I never wanted to step out of serving my local community of the Upper Ross into a role like this was my frustration with people. And people not doing their job the way that I thought people should do their job. I don't know if you're like that. That might bring a grin to your face because you think that of other people as well. That imagery I just shared with you before about driving up the highway up north, if nothing else, was a catalyst for God just reminding me, get your eyes off how other people do it and realise that we are in this big picture together. And that you have been given, an engineering mindset to see the bigger picture of things, but I also need to understand that God is at work in individuals, and I am in a learning journey, and I hate having to learn things from scratch. Is anybody else with me on that? I love the comfort of doing good work and ministry as someone called a full-time mission in Thurringale High School in Rasmussen, and having traction and having good relationships all the way through to government. And now I'm in an environment where I'm having to relearn and get a different perspective on what ministry looks like because my job has changed. With that in mind, let me introduce you to some of the people that I get to work with. Like Karina in Air. She's a superstar, and Kate in Vincent. And my job is more than chaplaincy, but I have 25 staff and 55 schools as Kay in 3 schools, including driving to Trebon every second week. Peter, one of our long-termers at Walgaroo, and Roz at Annandale and Anoomba, a good little cluster there. You've got one of our new chaplains, Chappie Rose, who works in Garoo State School in Jarvisville. Garoo about to have their first school fete in like 50 years. Chappie Tim's a legend, he's been around forever, up at Weir. Chappie Travis has just taken on Townsville High School as Jess Schwartz is on maternity leave, but he's got 2 schools there. Chappie Trudy, our longest-serving Chappie at the moment at Kerwin for 15 plus years. Vince at Kelso and Townsville West. Brookie at Willows, and she travels to Pentland and does some hybrid online support for them and in person. Chappie Charlie, she's got back from Hewenden, where he spent a week working with those kids, and he is a gift, as well as Chris, brand new in Racemusson, Danielle in Aikenvale and Cranbrook. Diane, I spent some time with on Friday. She's in Ravenswood and Distance Ed. You guys will know Chappie Isaac, many of you, Northern Beaches State High. Chappie Jenny, a long-termer as well, down in the Burdick, and stepped in for one of our chappies who's had some long-term illness in Ayr State High School. Chappie John, there at East Ayr. Chappie Josh, familiar thing around chaplaincy circles is coffee and pancakes. Another Josh, Chappie Joshua, that's how I determine the difference between them. He's working in Cleveland and the youth in Cowboys House. And Kerwin, and then we got Chappie Jules there. One of our brand newies took over. Poor old Jules. She's taken on my school of 20 plus years, and she's got a boss who obviously knows a lot about that school, so she feels the pressure. I wanted to introduce you to them, and there's a few people who are missing from that. Chappie Simon, Suzanne's brother-in-law from Ingham, which is awesome. He's brand new, and it's a great partnership. We're working together with Ingham Baptist there as Simon and his family move into that space, and the church couldn't afford them full-time, but he's studying and working within Ingham State School so that they could financially afford to move to Ingham, so that he can work out what ministry looks like in the Ingham district. Didn't get a picture of him, didn't get a picture of some of those that maybe you could be praying for. Chappie Amy has just been re-diagnosed with cancer and is off for the rest of the year to fight a second stint of cancer. Chappie Scott from Ayr State High School has been off all year, and we're still waiting for some specialist cardiologists to speak into his life and work out how we track forward in that. I did write this down somewhere, who else was missing. And Chappie Gayleen, whose son was diagnosed with cancer this year, and she's in a caring role until he can beat that. The reason I share those stories with you is that we as a team, and the reason why sometimes I am so proud of that team, but sometimes why I get so frustrated with my team is that we are diverse. That God has given us unique gifts and a unique calling, and we carry out that calling in our heart to follow Jesus in a unique way in the patches that God's called us to. As he is called, as has been the message this morning for all of us, that we are all called into mission and ministry, that God has given us a unique gifting, and we can so often see the Andrew Hassams and the Pierre Joubers and others working in the community doing something that we go, I could never do that. When God said, I didn't want you to do that. I wanted you to do what I placed in front of you to do. I wanted you to be the best guidance officer in the school that I've called you to be, and to love those kids in that way. I called you to be the best teacher in the way that you do that, because you've got more patience than any other chaplain to step into a space where you've got to operate in that role, which is very different, and the caring is very different. And it's not about saying anybody is more important than the other, because our skills draw us down a laneway that means that we can serve in a way to love and care for people in a way that we've been uniquely gifted with. And again, I share those pictures because I'm learning what Jesus looks like as I work with a unique team, doing things uniquely and having to learn that it's okay to let go of my sense of what things should look like, to see what Jesus is doing in Ingham State School, in Cleveland Youth Detention Centre, and the different paradigm that we work with in those spaces. In a school like Kerwin High School with over 2,000 students that gets less government funding than a school like Prairie that has 4 students. You know, they're the complexities that I have to work within and find a way that we can track forward together as a community in loving and serving Jesus. And I want to share as a part of that, part of my story. And I'm not going to keep you a long time. It's a stacked service this morning, but if you could stay with me for the next 10 minutes or so. 6 years ago, I asked the question around how could I look after my staff better? Because I'd been getting coffee people in to do, you know, once a term we do get the coffee cart in. I took it to the next level and I'd take orders, pre-orders from staff in their staff rooms. The coffee cart would turn up. I'd have the tidy tray. Who knows what a tidy tray is? It's the old school way that things went under your desk for primary school. Bring out the tidy tray and go, here's the science block at the high school. Here's all their orders. Coffee lady's making all the coffees, puts them in the tidy tray. Here's the next order. And I go and deliver those coffees to my staff. They paid for it because they just loved the joy of someone looking after them. But then I thought, we do this once a term. I'd really like to do something more. So we invested, and it was a partnership between the local chaplaincy committees at Rasmussen and Tharangau and a local church, this little coffee machine. And we spent $1,500 and we started once a week working in those schools, supporting the staff. And I thought, I reckon I could get 20 staff that would come along, and for the price of a cup of coffee, you know, $5 for a coffee, we should be able to cover our costs and start to pay back that to the chaplaincy committee, because this was our investment and mission. That was all well and good, but we were fixed by the capacity of this nice little machine that I still own, and how quick we could put a coffee out. So if 20 people turn up at the same time, who makes coffee in this place? Hands up. Who knows that, you know, if you've got lots of people that turn up, it takes a while to make it. And then for me, the heart was to bless and to love people. They just got frustrated because I couldn't do what I wanted as a gift for them. They'd stand around waiting, and there's only so much small talk that you can have. So there were so many great things happening there, but we needed to take it the next step. And part of this journey to the next step of developing a coffee cart was part of my journey with you as Northreach. We as a family were here for about 18 months. Some of you might remember that. I was passionate again about good service and coffee, so I worked with some of you guys in the cafe, did some training, did all that sort of stuff. Because I was passionate about that. And as we were doing different things, I realised that I wanted to be able to bring that as a gift, the skills that I had in wanting to do coffee, but not just coffee, good coffee, really good coffee, to people as a gift, because it's something I could do. So we as a family invested in this, not less than $15,000 of our own money, and with a bit of a business plan on how we thought we could pay for that long term. But the reality was it was just an investment that we made because we were following what Jesus was doing with the things that we were passionate about. We didn't wait for someone to pay for it. We said, what would we like to do as a gift to others? As a part of that journey, and as a part of an antidote for people to saying, Dan, the coffee man, oh, Dan, you're the coffee guy, you're the guy. And I'm like, that's just part of what I do. The reason I do coffee is what I want you to capture. The reason I do chaplaincy is what I want you to capture. The reason I do these things is because I care about you and I love what you do. And people couldn't capture that. So God gave us a strategy, which was to what do we call when you get compassion kids? Sponsor. I was going to say adopt, but it was a bit like that. So for the last 4 years, we've been sponsoring these 2 beautiful children as a part of the ministry of the coffee cart, and particularly for students and for staff to be able to say how good it is to share their stories with them about, you know, we're doing something bigger than themselves. We're not doing this as a fundraiser. We so often get caught talking about perspectives. We so often get caught with somebody, or your mindset might be, Dan gets up here, I was going to wear my beautiful new SU shirt today, but I thought, no, get rid of the logo. Because so often, people like me have a conversation with people like you and go, yeah, when are you going to do the sell if you need money and you need whatever? That's not the conversation that I want to have. I want to have the conversation around what God is doing and what God has called us to, all of us, and the work that he's doing. So I want to change the dialogue. I'll tell you what, that's such a better look early in the morning than it is from the back of that old coffee machine. And part of that journey was that we went from serving people to actually training people. And these are two of the young ladies who got to learn their skills and got so excited about hanging out and being mentored that we started doing community events together. This one was at the school, but we started working for people like yourselves and out in community organisations with young people who were just looking for a pathway of love and generosity and doing something for someone else. And I love things to look well. But I was finding more and more towards the end that I was still Dan the coffee man, and I was only being asked to do coffee stuff when my heart was to do so much more and so much different from that. And then we started tracking with some crazies like Michael and Pierre and Andrew. And last year, for the first time, we brought this concept called Thank You Coffee to Kerwin Police Station and just gave them free coffees because we cared about them. And Pierre did all the work of getting in the door. And I thought, that's the sort of thing I could support. I love making good coffee, but I'd rather support other people in those sort of works. Can you see how easy it can be to get trapped by a good idea? My idea was to set this up, and again, we invested heavily because we had a heart to love and care for people. And how many people here like a really good coffee? And you'll go past a dodgy coffee to pay for a good coffee. Keep your hand up if you would pay for a good coffee. Well, see, part of what happened out of what we were doing as we followed Jesus in this ministry was that there are 5 similar ventures that are happening around Queensland as a result of what God brought us on a journey with. There are coffee carts and coffee ministries in churches and in chaplaincy services as a result of what we did here in Townsville, which is exciting. But the reality is, like I say to many people who ask me that question, it's not about bringing coffee, it's about the heart that you bring, the generosity that you bring, and doing things as an act of love and an act of service. The coffee is not the gift. It's the attitude that we come in, which is the gift that takes it to the whole new level. Would you agree with that? Have you ever been to a coffee place that makes good coffee but the service is dodgy and you don't go back because you're just like, they could do better. They could do better. We as a church could do better in that as well. I'm not just talking about Northreach, but we do so many things that we tick the box without realising that it's why we do these things that it's more important than actually doing them. That we go, hey, we need to put people on the door to welcome people in the house, but you don't feel like doing it today, and you carry that with a level of resentment and entrapment, and then that passes on and rubs onto somebody else. I've not ever experienced that here at Northreach, but I have experienced that in churches. That the person who should make me feel welcome as I walk in the door looks like someone who would rather be somewhere else, but they're on the roster. It's not the roster that matters. It's not the ministries that matter. It's the reason that you're doing them and the reason that you put your hand up in the first place. Does that resonate with anybody? And so we can be trapped by a good idea, and our seasons can change. And we can be trapped because we're in a new season and the old season keeps us subservient to the ways that we used to do things. The ways we used to parent, the ways and the expectations of those things. The thing about Colossians chapter 3 and verse 23, which I'll throw up on the screen a little later on, is the context, and I want to leave this as a part of what you chew on today. That the encouragement is to people who are slaves in the way that they should submit to their masters. My encouragement to us today is, what do you feel trapped by? What do you feel enslaved to? And in Colossians 3, there are ways in which God shows us how to break the bondage of those entrapments and that slavery that we have to the system to walk in newness of relationship and fellowship with Jesus Christ. Because the reality is that what are we called to do? To do things as if we're doing them for the Lord. And if I go back through these notes, and if I pull this up, Matthew 25 verse 45, if you've got a Bible anywhere near your vicinity. I love this encouragement. It says, if we go past everything that's before that, I was hungry and you fed me. This is Jesus speaking. I was thirsty and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger and you invited me into your home. I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you cared for me. I was in prison and you visited me. When did we do these things? They said to him. I say, Jesus said, when you did it to the least of these, you did it to me. The opportunity that we've got as the church, as we follow Jesus, is to do what we do as if we are serving Christ himself and with the attitude of that. If you've been tracking with Jesus, you know he's changed your life. And if he's changed your life, then you want to be an instrument of that blessing and that love and that generosity to the people around you. So when you get to a Colossians 3:23, it's exactly the same story. It's exactly the same encouragement. That Jesus is calling us to find freedom, not just from the old ways of sin and death, but from the new ways of sin and death and entrapment, of the things that we get caught in because our focus aren't on things that are the person and relationship with Christ, that become the works that we do because we feel that's the way that we should love and serve Christ in the world around us. What do you need to change to follow Jesus? What do you need to investigate and look at letting go of to follow Jesus? I was challenged by that in the last couple of weeks, and there's some dodgy photos on that screen right there. But our chaplains from across North Queensland came, and we had a training day here just a couple of weeks ago, and I did a brand new thing, and I required permission to do so because I sent my chaplains on a treasure hunt because I felt like it's what God was doing, and I didn't know what would happen until we did it. So I created a booklet of places and things that our chaplains needed to do. They had to scan the QR code. It showed them where they had to go. And they needed to check back in. So they needed to take photos, send them back through to me as I sat here. One of those activities was, and they had each of them as a carload. So these represent 5 out of 6 of the carloads. One of my groups didn't do all the right things, so I didn't get photos from them. They had so much of a good time. They sent a video. I couldn't use that. But one of the activities, so each group had a Visa card with $100 on it. They had to put up to $40 worth of fuel in the person's car that they were driving in. They had to go and spend at least $20 at Juliet's on the Strand. Do you know that only one group out of 6 spent more than $20 at Juliet's? Can you imagine how frustrating that was for me when I gave an instruction of spending at least $20 and they couldn't even follow that? But Dan, we didn't need anything. You could have bought an ice cream and given it away. The instruction was to spend $20 at least. And they couldn't do it. See, I've got issues. This is me airing them. Poor old Charlie up top right there for you. Can't take a selfie to save himself, but he had a good go. One of the most liberating things that happened as we sent them out, there were 2 particular ladies who walked out as they walked out of this place to this hour-and-a-half activity, and I said, have a great time, and it's, whatever, I'm trying to think I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to tell you one of the stories along the way, and I'm going to tell you how they came back, because Jesus sends us out to bring good news, and good news looks like something, doesn't it? Would you agree? We carry ourselves a different way if it's good news. And this is part of what I've been trying to train my guys. One of the things that I said to our guys is that if you're going to share a good news story and if you're going to write a good news story, if it doesn't bring a glint to your eye and cause the side of your mouth to rise as you write it, rewrite it. Because one of the most important things that our chaplains are required to do is to report back on the good things that are happening in their school environments to people like myself and to their principals. If it's not good news to them, then they need to rewrite it, has been my instruction. So I had 2 cranky chaplains leaving this building, going out. One of the activities was this: Zarafas at Fairfield. Anyone familiar with the drive-through over there, or drive-through coffee in general? I said, you must buy at least one item in the drive-through and pay for the coffee in the car behind you. So they went through. Now, the dodgy group is not up here. Sent a video. They spent more time having fun and sending a video. There is a video that's sent to our closed network of stuff where they were just giggling like school children, adults up to the age of early 60s, giggling in the car as the attendant was trying to work out what they were doing and if it was dodgy. Because they got their coffee and then the driver, Joshua, would say, so what'd they order behind me? It's all right, we want to pay for it. Okay, so the attendant's getting, loosening up a bit. And then I could see Josh just go, he looks in and he goes, oh, someone else has just turned up. What did they order? We'll pay for that too. And there was this frivolity and joy and energy that came out of that car. When those 2 ladies, not just them, but everybody else came through that door at the end of the day, I had never seen so much life in my group of people. And I said, thank you, Jesus, that we undertook this work activity to learn what it is to carry the joy and freedom and energy of those who are called and released by the King. What God encouraged me to do was to change my perspective. And the word he gave me was, I want you to have a bit more fun. And that was the only way I could think of. And would I do it the same way again? Probably, because I get stuck in the mud. And then that pattern won't work anymore and we'll have to find a new way. And it's an experiment. But can I encourage you to experiment? Because I'm absolutely convinced that every person, no matter how messed up they are, and the people in your life, and you've probably got plenty of them, are still made in the image and likeness of Christ. Some people are just more broken than others. And I don't need to affirm nor even understand why someone needs surgery to change their identity. But my job is to love them. Because if my family member, friend, acquaintance is so broken that they feel that they need to take such drastic measures to fit into life, for me it's a reminder of how broken people in my life can be and how much me need to be a part of that journey of reconciliation and pointing people to Jesus. As we say in Scripture Union, part of our mission is to introduce young people, youth, families to Jesus, the Bible, and the local church. And I've said it here before, it's not always in that order, but it's always with a heart to introduce people to the ways and the person of Christ, because only he can set someone free from the power of sin and darkness and death. And if we have been given good news, let's carry that as good news to the people of the world around us, serving them in a way that brings life and liberty and freedom. Simple message, hey? Stinking hard to carry it out. Because people are people. People mess up our worlds. But as we follow Jesus, we find the way that he dealt with that, and the way that he loved, the way that he released, the way that he empowered, and the way in which he brought people close, wrapped them in his arms, messed up their hair a bit, and showed him how much he loves us. May the God who has set us free release you in freedom to love and serve the world. As the music team comes up to choose a random song to finish off our service, let me pray for us. My encouragement, just on this last screen, before I pray, if there's any way that you'd like to connect in that diversity of work, and this is about our partnership with you. If in doubt, always run it by your leadership here. I love the leadership at Northreach. I love hanging out and doing life and mission and ministry together. But if you would like to stay in tune with some of the stories and pray for the chaplains in your area and the work that we do in camps and mission and training or whatever, one of the ways you can do that if you're on Facebook is to go to NQ Chaplaincy, where we share all of our stories and what our chappies are doing. If you email me, I'd love to stick you on our weekly prayer list where our chaplains share their current prayer needs, and you can connect with me there. Let me pray this over us as we conclude this time together. And I'll be here for a bit longer afterwards if you want to catch up. Lord, I don't think much has changed in the last 2,000 years, yet alone the last, ever since Adam and Eve walked in the garden. The reality of your words to us, when people were trying to work out how they fit into this bigger idea of the kingdom of heaven, your words to us around what you were looking for should be the words that resonate for each of us today. You said to them as you say to us, the king will say to those on his right, come, you are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom, prepared for you from the creation of the world. For you say, I was hungry and you fed me, I was thirsty and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger, you invited me into your home. You say, I was naked and you gave me clothing, you were sick and we cared for you. You were in prison and we visited you. God, may we be people that realise that as we have done it for the people, even the least of these, even the most obnoxious, frustrating, arrogant, soulless, I don't know what words we use for the people around us, for the people that we struggle with the most, God, may you change our perspective to see that you are there in the midst of them and that you're calling us to learn something new, that you are drawing out of us a way to love and to serve and to give freedom. Lord, may we always focus on you, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, who has drawn us into a life, an ever-increasing life of adventure and grace and mercy and freedom. And may that be written upon each and every one of our lives as we go into a world where there are people and where we are given the opportunity to love. As you have loved us, so we will love. Amen.